Okay, our next unit is in chapter 10, so very exciting. Maybe the most practical unit of any in the book. We're going to deal with finances and talk about investments and interest and mortgages and all that sort of thing that may or may not come up as you head through your life outside of college. So where we're going to start, though, just so that we can be sure that we're all operating from the same page, because sometimes I make assumptions and it's not necessarily true, is we're going to start with a quick little one-section review of the idea of what a percent is. Okay, so if you're confident on percents, then you're going to be golden on this. I'm going to put some problems like this on the test, just since we're spending the class time, then it's going to be on the test as well. So here we go. The word percent tells you everything that you need to know. Okay, the word per, whenever you use the word per, you're creating some sort of relationship. And so percent means to divide by 100. The suffix cent, like how many cents are in a dollar, how many years are in a century, that is 100. So the word percent is literally telling you everything that you need to know. And it's telling you that a percent represents a ratio of the number that you are given and 100. Okay, so what we're just going to do is we're going to go through the different things that you can see as you're going through your percents. The symbol for percent, as you probably are well aware, I don't know how historically this developed, but you can see that it's like a division bar with zeros on each side. So at some point, people just got lazy, and instead of like saying divide by and putting 100 on the bottom, they put the 2 zeros around the division bar. So there's your symbol for percent. So the first thing we're going to do is in example 1, we're going to write each percent as a fraction. And here's the key bit of information. Whenever you see the percent sign or the word percent, what you're going to do is you're just going to make a ratio of that number and 100. So here goes. 37% is just going to be 37 divided by 100. And at that point, if you can reduce the fraction, then you reduce. We can't in that case. I figured the first example we would make not reducible. There we go, we're done. We've made our percent into its equivalent fraction. So do me this favor, do the B problem. Write 49%, give you 15 seconds to do it as a fraction. All right, what did you write as the fraction that goes with 49%? Perfect, thank you. No tricks or gimmicks, it's just 49 over 100. Again, no need to reduce that one. 49 is an odd number, 100 is even, so they don't, in that case, they don't share anything in common. All right, 35%, write that as a fraction, and hint, that will reduce a little bit. So the first step of making 35% into a fraction is no different than what we just did. I'm just going to draw a little arrow just so I don't have to smush it by my other problem. So the first step is it's 35 over 100. Okay, no big deal there. The percent sign literally means you just make the ratio to 100. What number goes into both 35 and 100? 5. Anybody not see 5? If you got a calculator, feel free to use your calculator. There's no reason not to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide by 5 in the top and the bottom. So 35 divided by 5 is 7. 100 divided by 5 is 20. At that point, that is fully reduced. 7 and 20 do not share any factors in common. This is, of course, an arithmetic skill. If you don't remember how to reduce fractions, or if this is going to be a stumbling block for you, just see me after class real quick. I've got some extra videos from a class that I've done that that you can review and go through the whole process of what it means to reduce a fraction. All right, one more. Do the D problem, please. And make sure you reduce that one. All right, again, first step, don't overcomplicate the first step. 80% just means 80 divided by 100. And at that point, you're going to divide again. What is a factor that 80 and 100 have in common? 20. So 20 is the full factor, but some of you may have said 10 because they both end in 0, or maybe 4 or 2 was where you started. Anywhere you start is fine. Just make sure that you get to fully reduced. Okay, so fully reduced means that I'm going to just do this in one step instead of several. So 80 divided by 20 is 4, and 100 divided by 20 is 5. Are we doing okay so far? I know it's Monday, and maybe you haven't had lunch yet, so your blood sugar is low, or maybe you had too much lunch, and now your blood sugar is high, and you want a nap. So we'll try to get through this together. I understand Mondays are crazy. All right, so we've seen writing our percents as fractions. Great. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write our decimals as a percent. We're just going to practice over the course of this page doing each of the things between percents and decimal. Well, here's the thing, and then I'll tell you the shortcut. If I have 0.14, what is the place that the 4 is in? Does anyone know the name of that place? Hundredths. Okay, it is the hundredths place. Okay, so this right here, 0.14, it just means now you don't have to write this down for any problem. I'm just trying to show you the why behind the shortcut instead of just skipping right to the shortcut. 0.14 is the same thing as 14 over 100. Okay. Well, there it is. There's my percent, because a percent is just a ratio of a number and 100. So that equals 14%. Well, the shortcut then to get from here to here, and I'm hoping this is nice in review, and all of you are going to fall asleep at some point because you're so extremely bored. The shortcut that some arithmetic teacher at some point in the past showed you is to convert a decimal to a percent. You move the decimal place 2 to the right. Now, the nice thing here is when you're making each decimal into a percent, the word percent has an R in it for right. Okay, so we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. So 0.14 becomes 14%. So give the next one a try. I'll give you 12 seconds. 0.57 becomes what percent? When I move the decimal 2 places to the right, I get what percent here? 57. Anybody getting something different? Okay, please let me know. Don't let me move on, but I'm just trying to move sort of speedily because, again, I'm assuming this is review. Do the next one, the C problem, please. When I move the decimal 2 places to the right, what do I get this time for percent? 45. Okay, we're going to move the decimal 2 places, and we end up with 45.9%. Do the D problem and ask a question if you need to ask a question. When I move the decimal 2 places to the right, notice it hops over those 2 zeros. So I still have a decimal left, 0.35, and then don't forget that percent sign. That way everybody knows that you're talking about a percent now and not just a regular old decimal. And last but not least, if you haven't done it already, the E problem. And how much percent do I have here?
126.7.
Okay, each time I'm moving the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, and that's how I convert into percents. So now we're going to do the reverse process. We're going to write each percent as a decimal. So if I moved the decimal 2 places to the right to make a percent, to make a decimal, well, here's the convenient thing. Decimal has an L in it. So we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. We're just going to go backwards. Exact reverse of what we did. So 25%, again, I mean, you're welcome to make this into a fraction first and then use your calculator because percent means divide by 100. So I'm just going to move my decimal 2 places to the left and I get 0.25. 25 divided by 100 is 0.25. So I'm just going to give you, a minute and a half. Go ahead and do the other 5 problems. Write each of those as a decimal. So for each of these, you've got 2 options. You can remember to make into a decimal, you're going to move the decimal place 2 to the left. It's just the reverse of what we did. You can also remember that the percent sign here literally means just divide by 100. So you can take whatever number precedes it and just on your calculator divide by 100. That way on the test, if you forget and you're freaking out, you can be totally certain. So 32 divided by 100 is 0.32. 55.8 divided by 100 is 0.558. 9.3 divided by 100 is 0.093. 0.039 divided by 100. Now there's a lot of zeros here, so we got 1, 2, 3 zeros, and then 39. And then last but not least, 254% becomes 2.54. Anything you're hung up on so far? Okay, we got plenty of time today, so please just let me know if there's anything that is not going well for you. Okay, so one more thing in our quick little review of percents. We're going to write each of these fractions as a percent. Well, again, we know how to convert decimals into percent, so we know how to do this. What you're going to do is you're going to take your calculator, and then you're going to first calculate what the value. I just turned on my flashlight. That wasn't what I wanted to do with my phone. Now the calculator instead, I'm going to take 3 divided by 8. 3 divided by 8 turns out to be 0.375. And we just on the previous page said, what do I do when I turn my decimal into a percent? Well, because of the R in percent, we remember that that means I'm going to move the decimal 2 to the right. So that's 37.5%.
I did an X over 100 and then cross multiply.
Yes, that's the more mathematical way that will work, but we'll take advantage of our calculators for sure. Okay, so go ahead and do the B problem. 11 divided by 20, 11 over 20. What is that written as a percent? So when you pop 11 over 20 into your calculator, it becomes 0.55. And then when I go to make that into a percent, that becomes 55%. One more, 15 over 16. Please make that into a percent. So in your calculator, 15 over 16 is 0.9375. Then I'm going to make that into a percent. That becomes 93.75%. All right, that's the quick review of percents and decimals and fractions, just some basic arithmetic for us this morning. But before I move on and we begin our process of applying percents to different things, any questions for me? The only other thing that you might encounter on your homework is if you come to one of these, just follow any rounding instructions. Like if I gave you 1/3 and said round, give this as a percent rounded to the 10th, just make sure you're rounding in the appropriate place. That's the only other thing you gotta remember when you're using your calculator. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do, okay, we're gonna do just a couple things today with our percents that we've just taken some time to practice. The first type of problem that you're gonna see is called a percent change problem. You encounter percent changes all the time, like when you go shopping, things like that. So for instance, here's my first problem. In 2017, the Oakland Athletics won 75 games. In 2018, they won 97 games. What I want to know, what's the percent change in their number of wins? All the percent change problems, whether it's given like this or whether it's given in terms of, I've used different wording on the last example on this page, a markup or a markdown problem, doesn't matter. It's all percent change. Here's what you're going to do. Here's how you calculate a percent change. I'm just going to make a note over here. The percent change, the way you calculate this is you take your new value minus your original value and then you divide it by the original value. So it's the new minus the original divided by the original. That gives you a decimal. And then if you want the percent, then you convert that into a percent like we just did. Okay, so then you take that and you convert it into a percent. Okay, so here we go. My percent change in this particular problem for the Oakland Athletics. What is the new value? What's the most recent number of games they've won? Okay, so for this problem, it's 97. And then their original value is 75. And we'll divide by the original. And so I'm going to round. I'm just going to go to 4 decimal places when I do this. We'll just keep that kind of our standard. That way we get a nice value. So I've got 97 minus 75 divided by 75. I'm going to round that to the 4th decimal place. That is approximately equal to 0.2933. But that's not the final answer, because the final answer we wanted is what's the percent change. We didn't want the decimal. So I'm just going to convert that into a percent. So that equals 29.33%. That's a percent change problem. I'm going to put 1 or 2 of those on the test. There's some on your homework. Hopefully that is nice and very straightforward for you, and you feel good about that process right there. So first practice problem, exercise 1. You do that percent change. How did the population change? 4 decimal places. Yeah, great question. Let's just make that our normal, round your answer to the 4th decimal place and then convert it to a percent. All right, so this problem says in 1990, the population of the United States was about 249 million. In 2014, it was about 317 million. What's the percent change? Okay, so the new value is 317 million, but I'm just going to use 317 minus the original, which was 249. And then we're going to divide by the original, which is 249. I'm going to do this arithmetic. I'm going to round to the 4th decimal place. So check your numbers. Make sure we're all pushing the right buttons on our calculator. Rounded to the 4th decimal place, that's 0.2731. And when I make that into a percent, that is 27.31%. Now notice both of these problems, the new value was bigger than the original value. So in both cases, what I have here is what's called a percent increase. Okay, the change has been an increase. And I know that because I get a positive value. I mention it because in the next one, you're going to notice that the value decreased. So your change is going to be called a percent decrease. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when you're done. But go ahead, do exercise 2.
Increase with GameStop stock prices. When it went to the moon.
Yeah, you can, there's lots of examples you can pick for sure. So this one says on May 13th, the price of this stock was 103.53. Then in October of that same year, it was 89.91. So what's the percent change? So don't get lulled into the habit of always making the larger number the first one. Okay, it's the new value, whatever that is. In this case, the new value is the 89.91. That's what the stock became. It started, so we'll subtract 103.53. And so you notice when you put that into your calculator, you get a negative value. That's what tells you this is a percent decrease, is because it's negative. So then we divide by the original, which is 103.53. Again, we'll round to 4 decimal places when we throw this down into the calculator. So again, make sure that we're all hitting the right buttons. So I get negative 0.1316 when I've rounded to the 4th decimal place. The negative tells me this is a percent decrease, and I got that because the new value was smaller. It decreased over time. And then when I make this into a percent, it's negative 13.16%. The last problem is just worded a little different. It's some things have been put on sale, so we want to know what the percent of markdown is. It's just a percent change problem. It's the exact same thing that we just did with slightly different words. So give it a try, see how you do. So on this problem, to get rid of our remaining 2022 calendars, this pharmacy reduced the price to $4. The original price was $5. What's the markdown here? So the original, or excuse me, the new price is $4 minus the original price is $5. And so then that becomes negative 0.20. So it's a markdown because it's negative. It's a percent decrease. So they're going to hang a sign over these calendars, and they're going to say that they are 20% off. So negative 20% or the markdown of 20% off. All right, last page. Continuing our working with percents and just seeing them in a couple of different contexts. The last one are just some straightforward percent problems. So this is example 6. Example 6 is actually going to be part of a bigger problem when we try to help later Melissa figure out what her monthly payment to buy this house is going to be. So Melissa wants to buy a house. It's $189,000 because she's not moving to Florida. So to obtain a mortgage, she has to pay 20% of the selling price down as a down payment. Okay, so in this particular problem, what we see is this sentence right here. Percents are never used alone. It's always a percent of something. And so this word, when I have 20% of something, what I've got is I've got 20%. The word of mathematically means to multiply. Okay, so 20% times the selling price. And that's the clue from this problem. And we're going to practice this. I just generated some very straightforward problems to make sure that we're comfortable doing this in different situations. So 20% of the selling price. So I'm just going to go ahead and 20%. I'm going to make 0.20. Whenever you actually use a percent, you make it into a decimal or a fraction. You don't multiply by the value 20. Okay, it's going to be, in this case, 0.20. So it's 20% of the selling price, $189. And when I go ahead and I throw that into my calculator, 189,000 times 0.20 is $37,800 is what Melissa needs to bring to the table in order to buy that house. Okay, fantastic. So the next problem I gave you is just a, without all the words, it's the same thing. So if you would go ahead and give exercise 4 a try. 41% of 78 is what? My preferred way of doing these problems, just because it's going to fit in well with what we do in this chapter, is just to do straight translation. 41% is 0.41. The word of tells me I'm going to multiply. 78, so this is just like the problem we did, but I'm going to tell you what the rest of this means because I'm going to change the thing that we don't know. The word is in math, when you see the word is, that means equals. And then the word what means I don't know. So in this case, I'm going to call it X or use a question mark or whatever you did. So if you didn't do this setup, which I doubt you did, that's totally fine. I just gave this as another straightforward example of what we did in example 6. But I also wanted to use this as a way to show you the setup so that when we do the rest of these problems, it makes some of the later problems a little easier to accomplish. So the bottom line on this problem is all you had to do was multiply the 0.41 times the 78, and that turns out to be 31.98. So 41% of 78, if I had $78 and I told you I was going to give you 41% of it, then I would give you $31.98. That would be your cut of that. So next problem, like exercise 5, almost the exact same thing, just slightly different numbers. Give it a try. Okay, so I'm just going to do the same thing, but again, this problem boils down to just a multiplication. 4% is 0.04. The word of means I'm going to multiply times 60, and that is what? So is means equals, what means I don't know. So again, this problem just boils down to what is 4% or 0.04 times 60, and that's going to be equal to 2.4. Y'all getting these values? We doing all right? Okay. Here's the last example I'm going to do, and then I've got a few problems that you are going to finish up with that are similar. I just want to do the same sort of thing we just did, but this time we don't know different things. Okay. The previous two problems were super straightforward because the percent and the of and the number, they were all right next to each other. So it was just multiplication. But this problem here says, what percent of 38 is 15? Okay, so this time I want to know what the percent is. So the what percent, since I don't know this, I'm going to call that X. Of means multiply. 38 is means equals 15. So again, I don't assume that you know much algebra in this class. It's not necessarily a prerequisite, but I'm sure you've seen some algebra before. If I have X, some unknown, times 38 over here, how do I get the X by itself? How do I undo that? I'm going to divide. Yeah, I'm going to divide by the 38. Okay, the reverse of multiplying by 38 is to divide by 38. So over here, I'm going to divide by 38, and over here, I'm going to divide by 38. Again, just like we were doing previously, I'm going to round to the 4th decimal place just to keep things nice and consistent. So when I throw that into my calculator, 15 divided by 38, round to the 4th decimal place is 0.3947. But X was the number that I multiplied by 38, so that wasn't the percent, that was the decimal. So that means the percent is actually 39.47%, just using that skill that we reviewed real quick at the beginning of our time together today. All right, so you're almost done with me for the day, and I got your tests. Want to make sure that we covered this pretty thoroughly, because where we're going from here, we're going to talk about how to calculate a credit card bill, how they calculate how they tell you what your minimum payment's going to be. We're going to talk about, like, if you get a car, how car payments are calculated. Everything we do in this unit is predicated on percents. Okay, so I just wanted to take some time to make sure you were good at it. So please do, if you're not already, probably are, do exercise 6. So once again, I've got the words what percent right there. So I'm going to make that X. Whenever I don't know something, I'm just going to use X. The word of means to multiply. 55 is means equals 34. So we have the same situation as previously. So I'm going to divide both sides by 55. The reverse of multiplying by 55 is to divide. And so again, rounding to the fourth decimal place, I've got 34 divided by 55. That turns out to be 0.6182 when I round. And again, I got to make that into a percent. So we get 61.82%. Exercise 7, similar problem. I did round. Rounded to the fourth decimal place. Yeah. Exercise 7, similar problem. The words are just in a different order, just to make sure that I've shown you all the different looks that you're going to see. So give exercise 7 an attempt, please. On the test, I will give you instruction and tell you what. So when you're doing your homework and quiz in my math lab, just make sure you're following their instructions. Okay, and word around. Yeah.
I have a question. I don't know why, but you know the way I did it before. If I did that on the test, because it's just ingrained in me, would I have points wrong?
No, you can do, if you have a different way, if you learned a different way and you're good at it, and it's totally fine.
Okay.
I just put the words in a different order on this problem just so that we don't get too used to seeing it in a particular way. So 10 is means equals. What percent? Again, I don't know, so I'll call that X. The word of means to multiply by 52. Okay, so I've written everything kind of really far apart for whatever reason. Let me scrunch this together a little bit. So 10 is equal to X times 52. So the opposite of multiplying by 52 is dividing by 52. So pop that into the calculator. I'm going to round to the fourth decimal place just to give me enough detail without deleting too much of the problem. So that's 0.1923. And as a percent, that's 19.23%. Anybody getting anything different? Do we need to talk about anything? Okay, don't let me shut off the recording in a minute if you have questions or feel uncomfortable about doing percent problems. So the last one I have for you here is exercise 8. Give it a try, please. Okay, so 55% is 0.55. Got to use that decimal. Of means to multiply. What is X equals is 63. So again, I've just shown you the third type of missing thing. The first two problems we did in this page, the what was after the equal sign. The next three problems, the what was after the was the percent. This one, we're taking a percent of what. So it's the same sort of thing though. I 0.55 times X. The reverse is to divide by 0.55. And I'm going to round So we get 63 divided by 0.55. That is 114.545455. So I'm just going to write that again. I didn't give you clear instruction because I'm not always a good instructor. So 114 point, we'll just round here to 55, the second decimal place on this one. Or if you took it out further, you got 5455, either way.